All right, everybody, here is my first effort at an FRQ for my semester B period friends. Get your, it's the last one in the packet. God, I hope we didn't do this one in class or it's going to be a big waste of time, but I don't think we did. 2014, it is the back, last one on the packet. I've zoomed in pretty much just on the graph so you can see that. But we'll be looking at the questions as we go along with it. Kind of very similar to the 2013 one that we did. What you see is a typical monopoly with an MR below the demand curve. But what's really strange with this one is marginal cost and ATC is a flat line. Again, that's very similar to what we saw in 2013, or the same. The only difference is this right out here, the LRATC, which is going to be one small part of it. Which again, kind of a unique part of the graph, but don't panic, right? We work the problem, nothing's different. Even if the curves are crazy, rules are rules. So let's walk through this one. If you have any questions, Google Classroom, email, the comment section of this YouTube video, any of those are fine, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. But let's start going here. It says, A, using the numbers given in the graph, identify each of the following for profit maximizing monopolist. The quantity produced. We know forever the quantity produced, MR equals MC. And so what we have is our MR is this curve, our MC is the flat line. They intersect there, so the quantity produced is 4. A double I, the price. The monopolist gets to price up to the demand curve and across. So the price is 40. Okay? So quantity is 4, price is 40. Allocatively efficient, A triple I. As soon as you see allocatively efficient, that is P equals MC. Okay? That means no dead weight loss. That is allocatively efficient. Okay, P equals MC. The demand curve is the same as the price, the same as the average revenue. Remember, we have DARP and MR, so that's the same as the average revenue. So when I want to find allocatively efficient, I find my price curve. Where does it intersect? And so it intersects right there where P crosses MC. So the allocatively efficient quantity is 8. A triple I is 8. B is the tricky one. B is, there's always one point on these that is kind of obscure on these long FRQs. B says that the profit maximizing quantity from part AI is the monopolist experience economies of scale. This goes back to what we talked about in the long run, economies of scale. If you remember, it was one graph that we did, and it was where we summed up all the short runs, and we said the long run looks something like this. It was one we talked about why they filmed like all the Lord of the Rings at the same place, and economies of scale. And what we have over here is the price per good, and then this is the quantity of goods producing. And in the long run, remember, we can change the size of the building, we can double the amount of machines we have, whatever. If the LRATC is downward sloping, okay, probably can't read this, but that's what we called economies of scale. Economies of scale. And when it was upward sloping, we called that diseconomies of scale. And then where it was flat, we called that constant returns to scale. So what we end up with is downward sloping economies of scale, flat constant returns to scale, upward sloping diseconomies of scale of the LRATC. The question itself says, are they producing monopoly? Are they producing economies of scale? So the answer is no. How do you explain it? All you have to say is because the LRATC is not downward sloping. It's flat through the entire range. So it's not downward sloping, so we don't have a LRATC that is downward sloping. So we do not have economies of scale. C says, now assume the monopolist produces 10 units. Using the numbers given in the graph, calculate each of the following. All right, so I'm going to get all this out of the way. And so this is the government's coming in and telling them they have to produce exactly 10 units. So that's how many they produce. Using the numbers in the graph, calculate each of the following. CI, and I'll put it up here. think, yeah, you should be able to see that. So CI, how do I calculate the monopolist economic profit? Profit equals Q, price minus ATC. Well, the government told me the quantity has to be 10. At 10, where does demand equal average revenue? There. So my price coming over here, my price part must be $10. But you go up to your ATC. ATC at that quantity is 20. All right. So P minus ATC is actually a negative number, negative 10. So we have negative 10 times 10. So my total is negative 100. Okay. So what we're looking at is here, it's this area, ATC, and that's total revenue. So it doesn't ask you to shade it, but it asks you to shade it. That's how you would represent the loss, is that distance. So CI is actually negative 100. Consumer surplus, okay? CII, what's consumer surplus? The difference between what they're willing to pay and what the consumer is willing to pay and what the consumer has to pay. Here's your willing to pay line. Your demand curve is your willing to pay line. We said the price is $10, okay? So the consumer surplus is this whole big triangle here. Price is 10, what they're willing to pay. So when we measure consumer surplus, it's area of a triangle, 1/2. The vertical is $60 minus $10. And the horizontal is 10 quantity. And so my math is right. It looks like, and it's a dollar value. Our total consumer surplus then is 1/2 60 minus 10, which is times 10, which is $250. Okay, so that is CII. CIII. Says the deadweight loss. The deadweight loss is the difference between what is socially optimal and what we actually produce. We produce 10, so we know that there. Socially optimal the rest of your life, 0 deadweight loss, is here at P equals MC. So that's what efficient, so the difference between what is efficient and what we actually produce, the nose of the triangle always points to what is efficient. So our deadweight loss is just that little triangle there. Okay. The difference between where we are producing right here, where society wants us to produce, the deadweight loss, and in this example, we're actually overproducing the goods. Society wants 8 produced, we're actually producing 10. So the deadweight loss is due to overproduction, and the deadweight loss equals, again, 1/2 because it's the triangle, 10 minus 8 is the quantity, and the dollar is 20 minus 10, or the vertical is 20 minus 10, which is a dollar value. 10 times 2 times 1/2. So if my math is right, it should be a deadweight loss of $10. Deadweight loss is always positive, even though it's an overproduction of the good. Deadweight loss is positive. D, at what quantity is demand unit elastic? As soon as you see unit elastic, okay, that is where MR equals 0. Okay? Remember, here's where MR equals 0. If you carry that up to the demand curve, that means anything up here above that point on the demand curve is elastic. Any part below it is inelastic. Okay? Above it is elastic, below it is inelastic. So what we have is the unit elastic quantity is 6 units, where MR equals 0. All right. E is price discrimination, what we covered right before all of this started happening. It's kind of the last thing we covered. Suppose the monopolist perfectly price discriminates and chooses the quantity that maximizes profit. So if we price discriminate, there is no one price. They get to price exactly what people are willing to pay. So the price is all along the demand curve. Okay. They will continue. Remember, Mr. DARP is back because now marginal revenue equals average revenue equals price, because I get to charge everyone exactly what they're willing to pay. MR equals MC. And so now we're here where MR equals MC. Okay. Because the Mr. DARP, because there is the price, there is no marginal revenue curve anymore. Okay. So what is their profit? Well, the profit is the difference between what they get to charge them, which is the demand curve, and what their ATC is. And again, ATC is 20 all the way across. So this one they produce, this is their profit. This one, this is their profit. For every good, price is the demand curve, ATC is a flat line. So this whole area becomes the profit. So profit once we price discriminate. If we price discriminate, and that says PD if you can't read that, what we see is profit PD equals 1/2 $60 minus $20. That's the vertical. The quantity is 8 equals 4 times 40. So if my math is right, I don't have the answers in front of me, which is super dumb, so I hope this is right. The profit, if they price discriminate, is $160. Consumer surplus, not a trick question. If the consumer surplus is always the difference between what people are willing to pay and what they have to pay. If the firm is able to price discriminate, everyone pays exactly what they're willing to pay. Right? This person would have paid 50, has to pay 50. This person would have paid 40, has to pay 40. Would have paid 35, has to pay 35. So anytime we price discriminate, consumer surplus always equals 0. That is a long FRQ. That is a 30-minute FRQ that we just did in 12 minutes and 17 seconds. If you have questions, below on the YouTube comments, Google Classrooms, email, anything like that. Keep up with this work. Eventually we are going to have a test. We're working out some things on how we can do testing, but that's not really the point right now. I'm not that concerned about the testing. I'm more concerned about getting you guys ready for the AP test in May. So just do the work, right? It's not going to be that much of your time. You got nothing else to do. Keep up with it. Let me know if you have questions. We'll see how today goes. I got to go home, check on the kids. Maybe we'll do another video of another FRQ tonight. Also, let me know in the comments, let me know somewhere if these work, if you like the videos, if there's some other way of instruction that you have an ideas for this distance learning, because we're kind of all in this together. So let me know what you think. Hope this helped, and I will talk to you later. Bye.